Uh, Ladies and gentlemen.
Giggity. All right.
Seems quiet. Too quiet.
I'm Batman. Gotham is never safe without me. What time is it? It's 7 o'clock. Okay, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
You can attach towers? Shut up. Impromptu performance this evening, which I must say was indeed a welcome distraction. Thank you, Mr. Holmes. You're very kind.
This is gonna be funny.
All right, let's try that again. Technology. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday. Sorry about that. I forgot to reboot my software to make the microphone work. Ghastly things. But we made it. Thank you for letting me know I was muted. It's good to see you all. Mama House Gaming, congrats on claiming first place. Bravo. Well done. Silent, almost first. And Gemma with almost second. Amazing. Well done. Stump Mama's Mama, it is wonderful to see you. I hope you're well. KD, so glad to see you tonight. Or technically this morning now, because it's just after midnight. Well, aren't you silly? Wow. Okay. Wow. Before we get into anything, I owe some workout stuff, right? So I figured I'd just do that first, you know? And then we'll get into the juicy bits. So, without further ado, I'm gonna turn on the other camera and I'll go do some workouts. Curls. then we'll sprinkle in some hammers. Silent, I can still see you. Bam. There we go.
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
I don't feel all that much better, but thank you. Thank you so much. Let's see, I did 10 of each, so let's knock that down. Wait. That's wrong. Curls. There we go. I deducted from the wrong thing. All right. Now that we've got some of that out of the way, let's get down to some business, shall we? Welcome to April. Welcome to April. You may have noticed that the double workout stuff has disappeared. That's because March is over. Thank God. Now, we're going to do something a little different. It's going to be my way of giving back to you all. And I will make a poster about this, I just haven't had time. But essentially, if you resub or gift a single sub, you can guess a page number out of this book. If you land on the correct page, you win a $25 gift card. If you do 5, you get 5 guesses out of this book. And if it's 10 or more, come and get it. Gemma, I was just explaining. That was not an immediate hint. If you do 10 or more, you get 15 guesses out of this book. Okay, all right, done. Gemma, thank you for gifting 5 subs right out of the gate. Stone Cold Gentleman, Taz2's Mellums, Pearl Books, and Papa Skiz. Amazing. So here's how it's gonna work then, Gemma. Thank you. You get to be the first guesser, you know? I need, let's see, what was it? 5 numbers between, I realize I just capitalized the H in that word. Between pages 3 and 233, I need 5 numbers from you, and I will check this book, and if you're a winner, you get a gift card. Party! Hi. Long time no see. How the heck are ya? How the heck are ya? It has been a while. It truly has. Oh, I should probably spin the wheel too, because I still have to do the workouts. Holy cow. Lindy, hello. She apparently only loves you. Wow, really? Let's see, that's a streamer picks, so I'll add squats. I'm not getting in the middle of that. Hammer curls. You're out of breath right now and tired? Oh boy. Okay, I'm going to get those in a moment. Gemma, I will check the pages here in a moment. Here comes number 3. Gemma, you get to pick one. I'll do number 4. I get to pick another one, so I'll do push-ups, because that's empty. And last but not least, let's go with squats, and Gemma wants push-ups. So we'll add more push-ups and more squats. So glad I did some workouts already. Today was a long day. I bet it was. Tuesdays were just like an extension of Monday. All right, first page is 50. And what I've done is I've marked in pencil at the top of the page. Nope, it's not 50. Let me check 80. It is not 80. Let me check 150. $150, no mark on 150. $175. Nope. Last number, because I don't actually remember what I even put as the numbers. 210. Close, but sorry, no cigar. And you're like, well, what if he's just not telling us? I would never lie to you. There's literally no reason for me to do that. So if you land on it, I promise you'll get it. But that was a good set of guesses, Gemma. Now you know how it works, everybody. Rexter, hello, sir. Oh, you had grand jury duties for the month? Oh, wow. That's a long-ass time. Ugh. Good for you. Way to do your civic duty. Here's your puzzle for tonight, by the way. It's a quaint little farm. I don't know if you can see that on your screen, but it's there, I promise. Oh, and since in our book, Neen and Sherlock drink a lot of wine, I too have apple juice. Delicious. Oh, that's a cool one. Thank you for that. Who is this diva? Rexter, you're gonna get in trouble, dude. She's gonna get you. All right. Everybody calm down. I can only have a sip of applesauce. It makes my stomach sick. Well, sorry to hear that. Probably for the best anyway. Between Stunty and Stamma's mama, my life is over. Oh God. I am so sorry. Too bad because I love it. Okay, well, you do you. You know? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're starting on chapter 4 this evening. And of course, we also have our marble races. That'll be exclamation point play to jump into that. You do not want to let me win. That's all I'm saying. 60 seconds on the clock there. Chapter 4 tonight starts is on page 28. Ooh. Title. Thump. Thank you, Thump. I assume Thump is currently streaming. I think I saw you go live. In fact, let me do that for Gemma. Again, thank you for the gifted subs. Super kind of you. Yes. And looks like Thump's doing some Valorant. Valorant. Either way, he's doing it. All right. Chapter 4 is from Neen's perspective, aka Irene.
You're gonna tell me I missed every shot? Wow, dude. I wish you could have saw my perspective from that, but I like perfectly traced his head and
Just missed everything. Chapter 4 is the abduction. So in our story, things are really, they're getting real, okay? They are getting real. All right. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to see you this evening. I look forward to reading to you. Please sit back, relax, and I'll read you a story. Mattia patiently waited as Frederick escorted us to our carriage, messing up already, ensuring we were safely enclosed in the brougham. With the crack of the whip, our journey home to our villa at Via Torino had begun. We were tired from the evening's excitement and the wonderful meal. Nico soon drifted off to sleep, clutching the brown paper parcel holding Enrico's record. As the carriage rattled over the cobblestones and wound through the tree-laden streets towards the park, the lamps cast slender fingers of light through the darkness, giving trees a ghostly silhouette. I stared out of the window as our coach driver, Mattia, suddenly pulled up the horses outside the gates to Parco Sempion, a large urban public garden stretching between the Castello and the magnificent Arco della Pace, where Sherlock and I had spent many happy hours with the children. The park had been busy throughout the day, hosting fine art displays as part of the Milan World Fair International Festival. A middle-aged man with dark brown hair and a beard, dressed in a black sack suit and white shirt, frantically waved to flag down our driver as he limped along the road. The man was wildly gesticulating towards a woman lying motionless on the ground beneath a cypress tree. "Please, help my wife," the man implored. "She collapsed a few minutes ago. I twisted my ankle trying to lift her." I ordered Mattia to open the carriage door, and as he jumped down, I glanced at Nico, who was still sleeping, soundly like a baby. I looked around anxiously, relieved to find no one else in sight, covering my son with a blanket before stepping down from the carriage to join Mattia. I attended to the lady, a diminutive figure with brown hair tied up in a knot. She was dressed in black, with a red shawl covering her shoulders. She looked pale and drawn, but responded to the salts I wafted under her nose.
Noise.
Hi, Purple. Good job, Rexter, winning the first race. Only 15 more to go. "She's not drunk," her husband explained. "My wife is expecting, becoming lightheaded as we return from a late-night event in the park." "Do you live far from here? May we offer you a lift home?" I inquired. The man nodded. "That would be most kind, thank you. We don't live far," he said, pointing to the opposite side of the park, toward an imposing-looking detached house set back from the road, shaded by tall, mature trees. It sat next to a row of smart-looking, honey-colored cottages, offering spectacular views across the park from its elevated position. The man extended his hand. "My name is Fabrizio Gallo. And this is my wife, Mimi. I introduced myself to Fabrizio and his wife, who said they recognized me from my photographs at La Scala. Mimi clasped my hands as we helped her into the carriage. She sat on the opposite side of Nico and me while Fabrizio jumped into the front with Mattia. I handed Mimi a cup of water from a flask, which she sipped from gratefully, the color eventually returning to her sallow cheeks. Nico opened his eyes briefly, acknowledging my presence with a smile before falling back into his delightful slumber. I felt a pang of regret for keeping him out so late. When we finally pulled up before the brooding outline of the darkened house, the night air was still warm and held a mysterious yet tranquil atmosphere about it, as if the very shadows whispered secrets amongst themselves, conspiring in the stillness. Mimi swayed slightly as she slowly disembarked from the carriage. "I still feel a little giddy," she said as her slender fingers clutched mine, her grip tightening and face paling once again beneath the moonlight. "Please, won't you come with me to the house?" she murmured, her voice a fragile wisp in the night. I nodded in agreement and asked Mattia to stay with Nico while Fabrizio limped ahead, opening the front gate, which I noticed was about 5 feet high. The house's name, 11 Vecchio Signo, was displayed on a brass plaquette to the left of the mortise door lock. Fabrizio noticed me staring at the ornamental plaquette. "The previous owner was a birdwatcher. He named the house in honor of the swans at Parco Sempion's artificial lake." A separate entrance to the side led to a good-sized rear garden, an outhouse, and an orchard surrounding the house. Putting my arm around Mimi, I accompanied her through a sizable oak-paneled hallway and into a medium-sized lounge until she was safely nestled into a cozy-looking armchair. The rest of the room was sparsely furnished, absent of the bare necessities of life, save for a vase filled with beautiful purple morning glories, orchids, and a grandfather clock set in the corner. "God bless you. Few would have stopped," Mimi sighed. "Never mind an acclaimed contralto. May my husband and I offer you some refreshment?" I shook my head. "No, thank you. It's late and I need to get my son home," I said, furrowing my brow as my ears were alerted to the sound of a carriage traveling at speed in the lane outside. I figured it must be late revelers from the exhibition. Yeah, I'm thinking that's not it. I said farewell to Mimi and her husband. As I stepped outside, I was horrified to discover Mattia laying motionless on the ground, bruised and battered, blood flowing freely from a gaping wound to his head. Our carriage, with my son inside, was galloping away. The driver had their back on us, so I couldn't tell if the perpetrator was a man or a woman. But before disappearing from view, the driver slowed down and turned around for a moment, their shadowy face concealed by a mask. My heart stopped in my mouth. It was as though I'd seen the devil himself, as the driver nodded, touching their hat with what looked like a cane, before turning back around and disappearing into the night. My wails of anguish echoed into the evening stillness as I repeatedly called out my son's name, but there was no answer. The only sign of Nico was the brown paper parcel discarded on the rough ground, and the record Caruso had so lovingly autographed smashed into pieces was all that was left. I couldn't get that image out of my head, as though seared into my brain. I ran over to Mattia, who remained unconscious, removing my scarf and binding it tightly around his head in a makeshift tourniquet, attempting to stem the blood flow. Then I ran back to the house, banging frantically on the door. There was no reply. Not shocked about that either. I pushed the door open and rushed inside, calling out to Mimi and her husband. The lounge was deserted, save for an empty glass on the side table. Upon entering the kitchen, I found the back door wide open, as though someone had hurriedly left. My stomach churned as I ran upstairs to the bedrooms to find them empty and unoccupied. The main bedroom smelled musty, its floorboards bare. The hair prickling on my neck did nothing to diminish my uneasy feeling, and the sense that something evil had occurred in that room. My eyes were drawn to a padded cushion lying discarded on the floor. I stared at it, shuddering as the enormity of this discovery flooded over me. Its fabric and size, commonly used in theaters and opera houses, helped create the optical illusion of pregnancy. It was hard to describe the icy terror that descended at that moment. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the opening chapter for tonight's reading. Oh boy. The deed has been done. Nico has been kidnapped, abducted. Not a good day. I had wondered ever since I started reading about this man and this woman who needed help, if that was just a ruse, a trick, perhaps. Sure enough, a trick it was. A trick it was. Very well thought out, though, KD. I had originally thought that maybe he would have pulled a knife or something and taken them from there, but I realize now that in order for this to be a true mystery, you needed to have some other people involved whose faces had not been seen. You are quite welcome. Chapter 5 starts on page 33. This perspective, though, is from Nico Sapori's point of view, the child. The Italian is La Prigione Ecclesiastica, or the church prison. I'm assuming I didn't say that right, but it sounded good in my head. Curiouser and curiouser. Yes, I imagine it's only going to thicken from here. Here we go. I awoke with a jolt as I felt the carriage swaying from side to side. I opened my eyes, wondering what was happening. The carriage blinds were drawn to three sides with no sign of my mother. Looking down, I was horrified to discover my hands and feet were tightly bound with rope, cutting into my wrists. The gag over my mouth restricted me from protesting. I tried in vain to wriggle free, but the rope only cut into me more deeply. Then I noticed the woman sitting opposite. My blood ran cold, observing her menacing stare. She wore a black coat and a large green scarf around her neck, reminiscent of a Russian peasant. Her sallow skin and protruding gray eyes continued to stare at me. "Be still," she hissed. "It will be over soon, you'll see. Nothing will happen to you if you do as I say." She advanced towards me, a needle glistening in the moonlight shining through the uncovered window. Then, after she rolled up my jacket and shirt sleeves, I felt a stabbing sensation as she pushed the offending needle into my arm. The last thing I remember was floating into darkness. I could use one of those. I'll roll up my own sleeve. In fact, I'm wearing short sleeves. Here, just go ahead. When I awoke, groggy from my forced slumber, fear etched into every fiber of my being as I was carried by a man of middle age with grey receding hair and green piercing eyes that stared at me like a cat. My father instilled in me the importance of remembering details and questioning everything. Questions, he said, lead to knowledge and understanding. Learning is an ongoing process that always continues. So I did my best to stay alert and keep my eyes peeled for clues, taking in my surroundings as best I could. Looking around, I noticed the carriage we'd disembarked from was a hansom, pulled by 2 chestnuts, not my parents' brougham, and a pair of greys. We were on the grounds of what appeared to be an old, disused church with overgrown gardens, broken stained glass windows boarded in places, and a spire hovering in the distance. Mad Locust, hello. I heard the distinct sound of a whistle as the man carried me through the derelict churchyard. There, I saw gravestones pass by me, highlighted by the glow of the evening's full moon. One particular headstone caught my eye, engraved with the name Torrido Canio, who died many years ago. The name struck a chord with me as it had cropped up in conversation earlier that evening. Arturo Toscanini told me that Enrico had given many thrilling performances of the lead singer Torrido in Cavalleria Rusticana. The man carried me down a flight of crumbling stone steps. He nearly lost his footing twice and was deftly scolded by the woman, who chastised him in a thick European accent. As she flashed a torchlight upon us to help the man navigate the steps, I noticed a desecrated religious painting. It was a fresco of a woman, one that was vaguely familiar, hanging on the corridor wall. The mysterious figure wore blue robes and a white habit and looked toward heaven, clutching an olive branch with one hand and what appeared to be a stone in the other. She made an eerie sight in the torchlight. Rexter showing us up. Hopefully someone can get a grip with the paperclip. I'm hiding a nos under the seat. Oh, so silly. 60 seconds on the clock. Good luck. We finally entered an underground chamber, and the man set me on a single bed before untying the gag. Glancing around the small windowless room in bewilderment, I took in my cold, damp surroundings and the familiar sound of intermittent dripping water from a faucet in the passageway. I realized this was to be my prison cell. In the corner was a commode, a bedside locker with a taper candle, 2 chairs, and a table holding a pitcher of water, a mug, and a plate of black bread and cheese. Blech. Princess. Good evening, dear. Thank you for the lurk. Don't even think about trying to escape or crying for help. We're underground, and only the dead will hear you. The woman laughed with a defining cackle. Where's my mother? Why have you taken me? I cried. Your mother is safe. We're demanding a ransom. When your parents pay, we shall release you. The woman said matter-of-factly. In the meantime, make yourself comfortable. You'll be our guest for several days. She smiled dryly. I want you to write a note for your parents, Signor and Signora Sapori. She added with a calm aloofness, to let them know you are safe and that we're treating you well. If you comply, I'll consider untying your feet. From the clipped consonants and unmistakable timbre of her voice, reminiscent of a former schoolmistress from Berlin, I discerned a distinctly German accent. As the woman spoke, moving with a disquieting precision, she extracted a worn leather notebook and sleek fountain pen from the inner pocket of her coat. Each motion seemed deliberate and methodical, as if honed through repeated practice. With a casual flick of her wrist, she tapped the pen rhythmically against her gloved finger. It was a gesture both unsettling and assured, like a conductor about to commence a well-rehearsed symphony. Ah, purple won that one. An icy dread seized my heart as a certainty settled over me. This woman had orchestrated such grim undertakings before. The smoothness of her gestures, the detached glint in her eye, revealed a mind steeped in calculated control. Indeed, her manner with her subordinate marked her unmistakably as one in command, the silent overseer of my abduction, as though each step in this dark affair had been meticulously rehearsed to such a devastating effect, devised to her exacting standards. At that moment, I detested this woman for making me uncomfortable. I loathed everything about her, her sardonic smile, sallow complexion, and protruding eyes. Still, most of all, I despised her for taking me away from my beloved family. I returned the woman's gaze, nodding in resignation, thinking she was the stuff of a grim fairy tale. The witch that hides a deadly poison in an apple with a glib and a sneer. I wondered if she'd ever been kind. Her scowl was enough to sour buttermilk and reduce small children to tears. My thoughts took me back to a line from Grimm's The Grave Mound. Jesse, actually, I don't think you are late, because again, I noticed you were here before I was. But hi, welcome. Good to see you. I picked a new puzzle for you. At midnight, they are disturbed by a shrill whistle, which heralds the devil's arrival. The woman placed the notebook and pen on the table, gesturing for the man to untie my hands. We have pressing matters to attend to, but will return within the hour. Make sure the letter is ready, she barked. The woman's forced smile did nothing to soften her features, and I disliked her even more. Then the man and the woman left the room, locking the door behind them. When the key turned in the latch, it was a grim reminder of my situation. I frantically called into the night, banging on the door and praying that someone would hear me. But it wasn't to be. My voice was just a distant echo inside the thick walls of the chamber. Nobody but my abductors knew that I was imprisoned here. Mr. Marcher. What's up, sir? Oh, that was a nice pop in my neck. Folks, If you like unwritten roleplays in GTA, Night Marcher's your guy. He's a farmer. He's a trucker. He's a news guy. He sells food out of a food truck. Does a bit of everything. Pretty soon he'll be marrying people. Is it gonna pull up a... And Stream Elements is so bad.
Do not throw your wallet at this streamer that you're trying to actually get to know. Don't do that as a cry for attention. Because
Don't.
that's so apparent.
Good idea. You're welcome. Go get your license. Charge, I don't know, $50,000 to marry people. It's a good bit of work. I stared at the notebook for some time, blinking back tears. I realized it was time to put away childish fears. There was so much I wanted to say, but what could I say without evoking suspicion while trying to alert my father to my whereabouts? I had yet to learn where I was, but what I did have were cold, hard facts. It was my only opportunity to give father a clue so he could come and rescue me in this lowly and deserted church. My abductors knew him simply as Signor Sapori, a name as common as it was unremarkable. They appeared to have no clue of the formidable mind concealed behind that guise, nor any clue that they were contending with the celebrated detective Sherlock Holmes. This knowledge sent a quiet thrill through me, a flicker of hope in an otherwise desperate situation. Though I was only 11, my father had taught me much, sharpening my mind and filling it with the tools of his trade. Attaboy. I had to find a way to exploit their ignorance. If I could convey a clever, subtle, clue-riddled message, my father would instantly recognize it. His mind leapt to every hidden implication. My enhanced intellect might be my only weapon here, and the very thing that could, in the end, ensure my escape. Then, in a defining moment of clarity, I realized the woman's identity in the picture. We discussed this in scripture lessons. She was Saint Veronica, born in Binasco, 67 miles outside Milan. The problem was that the city was strewn with Catholic churches. We could be anywhere. With some trepidation, I picked up the pen and began to write. I first discovered my father's real identity when I was 9, during a Christmas vacation at Ash Tree Farm, our second home on the Sussex Downs in England. My father was shocked when I confronted him in his study on Boxing Day. But to give my father credit, he never tried to deny his true identity. On the contrary, he was intrigued by how I knew and even laughed when I explained that it was uncanny how me and my Uncle Mycroft shared so many mannerisms and the same grey, penetrating eyes. Then, my father's mood became somber, and he swore me to secrecy to protect my mother and my little sister, Charlotte. Man, Rexter, you're really dominating. The rest of you are just gonna let him do this? I think not. No one can ever know, especially Charlotte. Father had implored. My balls fast. You got one of those street balls? The non-legal kind? Is that it? My sister was only 4, so I agreed to my father's request. He knew I would do anything to protect our family. Another thing my father taught me was never to give in when facing adversity. Never stop fighting, he said. The nameless man and woman came back as promised. I held my breath as the woman's keen eyes scoured the note. "You have done well," she said, looking satisfied and flashing a fathomless smile, before turning to the man and ordering him to untie my feet. The woman handed me a book. I glanced at the cover. It was Alexandre Dumas' timeless classic, The Count of Monte Cristo. And it was one of my favorites. I haven't personally read that book, but I've listened to someone else read it, and my God, it's hilarious. Or wait, maybe I'm thinking of a different book. I think I'm thinking of the right book. Isn't this the book where the guy believes he's a knight on like a great quest, but he's actually just nuts? Or am I thinking of something else? I can't remember now. It's gonna drive me bonkers. I thought that was it, but I have a feeling I'm mixing up my stories. Oh, that's Don Quixote. Yes. All right, never mind. I'm thinking of a completely different book.
Honk, noise, honk.
You know, I deserve that. I accept that. I got the book wrong. Okay, Don Quixote. That's the funny one. Yes. God, that book's funny. Anyway. It will help pass the time until we release you, she said, placing the note in her pocket before turning on her heels and leaving the room with the man following close behind. I found solace in the taper candle. Reading the book had momentarily taken me into another world as Dumas's epic narrative told the story with terrific dash and panache. I huddled under the blanket, eating from my bread and cheese platter, while I shared with a baby mouse scurrying in the corner. I longed to be back home with my parents and my sister Charlotte at our villa in Via Torino, safely ensconced in my family's bosom, where my life was complete, happy, content, and everything was as it should be. Count of Monte Cristo is a man in prison for some crime he didn't commit, and while in prison he crafts a new identity to get back at those who wronged him. How fitting. I see what you did there. Good job. I see the connection. Touché. Monte Cristo cigar sounds good right now. Oh, Rexter, you're so silly. As my eyes became heavy, I closed my lids and thought of happier times, like my family seated in the drawing room after dinner. Father curled up by the fire with his pipe and a glass of whiskey or port. Charlotte snuggled on his lap as he begrudgingly read to her, nearly always from her favorite storybook, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Those stories were as bewildering to my father as they appealed to Charlotte. Nevertheless, Father would continue reading patiently to the amusement of our mother, Neen. How I longed to return to those precious family moments. I even missed arguing with my sister, who could be annoying sometimes, but what I would give to hear her voice calling out to me. I missed Charlotte more than I could ever imagine. Then the floodgates opened, and I cried like a baby. I was glad my abductors weren't around to see me like this, to witness my vulnerability. I had to stay strong for my family. Finally, I drifted off into a fitful sleep. And that was chapter 5 from Nico's perspective, which is why I use this voice, because it sounds a bit younger, hopefully. They made it into a musical, Man of La Mancha. Man, can you imagine if Don Quixote turned into a movie? I would watch the crap out of that. I wonder who they would have play Don. You'd have to find someone nuts. Just absolutely off their rocker. Jim Carrey, perhaps. That was a very well written chapter, KD. I really enjoyed that from Nico's perspective. I'm not used to having young characters to portray in a story, so it caught me off guard for a split second as I, had to think about it for a moment as we started. I found a piece. But yeah, it's I'm sure we're gonna see more of Nico, like his perspective in further chapters. So yeah, it's fun to read, but it's also a fun test for me. It's a challenge for me, more so than other characters. Glad you liked it. You will be hearing more from him. I assumed. He's gonna help the plot thicken, or keep moving, perhaps. I'm very anxious to see what he's hidden inside his note. I'm even more interested to see how the note is going to make its way from him to his parents. And are these people the ones that pretended to be the pregnant lady and injured husband? Or are these the people that drove them away? Because I'm imagining they're two separate sets of people. Wait until the deadly antagonist appears? Is that also a child? You killed my father! It was made into a film in 1972. Okay, but I want a modern film. Nothing wrong with the 70s, no disrespect. But I want a film done now with CGI and special effects and all that good stuff. All right. They would butcher it? How dare, madam? You're probably right, but how dare? Butcher it. Oh, also, KD, for being such an honorable guest and staying up so late, I want to give you something. There. KD, you are now subbed. The song "The Impossible Dream" comes from that musical. Oh. I don't think I know that. But yeah, anyway. So no more ads for you, KD. And speaking of ads, since we only have 6 minutes-ish till the next one, and we're about to start a new chapter, I will run ads right now so we can get those out of the way. Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much. You are quite welcome. We can't have our author missing stuff and correcting me on my poor Italian. My hack job of Italian-sounding words. That reminds me, have you guys seen the trailer for the movie Bad Guys 2? The animated movie? It's hilarious when the shark character's like, I promise I will play you respectfully. And he's like, what is it? Cappuccino, where's my flowers? It cracks me up every time. I can't wait for that movie to come out, to be honest. I know it's a kid's movie, but it looks so funny. And some of the voice actors in there are great. Wait, what are you gonna do, Rexter? Oh. Rexter, you didn't win this time. What are you doing, bro? Last again. You gotta watch it, because there's no sounds, right? So I didn't want the sounds to distract. You have to keep your eye out, you know? First in this time. All right. I don't know if anyone had ads, but the ad break is over officially, so we will get back to it. By the way, well, you got me thinking musicals? Oh, that's fair. I took the kiddo to see Snow White in the movies a few days ago, over the weekend. It was pretty good, actually. I think if I don't want to spoil anything, just in case anyone's gonna go watch it, but the dwarves in that movie saved the movie. It's because of their parts in it that made the movie good. That's all I'm gonna say. You still need to watch Wicked. Wicked's awesome. It really was. I want to watch that again too, but I'm waiting for it to come out on like a streaming service before I watch it again. I don't want to pay for it. I already paid for it once. You're not getting my money twice. That's not how this works. All right. Yes, click that link to check out this book and many more by KD. Chapter 6 starts on page 40 in the printed copy. And it's from Irene, aka Neen Adler's perspective. It's called that's a frickin' mouthful. La Realización. Realización? It sounds like a tongue twister. It's streaming on Peacock if you have it. I think we do, actually. Because we have Walmart Plus, and because of that, you get... Oh no, that's Paramount Plus. We don't have Peacock. Never mind. Getting my streaming services. Too many streaming services. Like, come on, guys. Anyway, it's called The Realization. How you say that in Italian, I have... Realización. Realización. La realización. If you say it fast, nobody knows. All right. Here we go. After being disturbed by the commotion, a crowd of neighbors descended onto the street. Victor De Soto and his wife Isabella from one of the neighboring cottages raised the alarm and summoned the policia and an ambulance. Too many streaming services? I tend to pay for 1 month and watch what I want, then try another service for a month. Yeah, that's not a bad way to go. I like it when they give you like a week or so free or 30 days or whatever, just so you can test the waters, but they're not all created equal, that much I know. The ambulance soon arrived to take Mattia to the Policiendo hospital. I felt guilty for not accompanying him, but he was still unconscious, and my priority was to get to Sherlock to alert him to the gravity of our situation. Realización. Wait, real is as Aeoni? Realizazioni? You got Peacock so you could watch the Olympics. I think we got it so my wife could watch some basketball stuff. But then we got rid of it. So the ambulance driver assured me Mattia was in good hands, and after hurriedly scribbling out a note with my details, he promised I would be kept updated on his prognosis. Close enough, right? Yeah. Isabella De Soto, an engaging young woman in her mid-20s, placed a rug around my shoulders and handed me a cup of hot tea, which I gratefully sipped. She sat with me patiently until the policia eventually arrived. I cried out with relief at the reassuring sight of our old friend, Inspector Salvatore Romano. He was of medium height and build, with dark hair that was bespeckled gray, and he had brown and kind, expressive eyes. Sherlock had dined with the inspector and his wife, Caterina, just a few weeks earlier. Salvatore stepped out of his horse-drawn carriage, flanked by two guardi, who surveyed the small group chatting on the grass outside the house. "Please, return to your homes," the first guardia said. "Our officers have everything under control." Yes. Our officers have everything under control. We will come and speak with you soon. Acknowledging my presence with a nod and a grim smile, Salvatore listened patiently and without interruption as I tried to explain what happened to Nico. "This is a dreadful business," Salvatore said, "but mark my words, we shall find the villains responsible and bring them to justice." While the guardi searched the house for incriminating evidence, Salvatore gently escorted me to the carriage where we sat. He encouraged me to tell him everything that had transpired, including a timeline where possible. I shook like a leaf, overcome with nausea and fury as I reviewed the evening's events, which Salvatore recorded in his little black notebook as he quickly wrote up the incident. Finally, Salvatore agreed for one of his guardi to take me home. I knew that by working together, Sherlock and the inspector would have a better chance of finding Nico and apprehending the culprits. Rexter coming back with a vengeance. He's not going down easy, folks. He is the ball to catch. You must catch Rexter's ball. 60 seconds on the clock. Salvatore squeezed my hand reassuringly as he helped me into the carriage. The coach driver, attired in a heavy black policeman's cape, briefly nodded, touching his cap before he turned around and cracked his whip, a vaguely familiar gesture. I shrugged, realizing the driver reminded me of our carriage and the incident with poor Mattia as we continued via Torina. Lurk coming in quietly. "Hello all. Have a great stream, Bookfather. Thank you, Fubar. Enjoy your seat in the back row, quietly, in the dim lit area. That's where the recliners are, by the way. My mind was in a haze on that journey home. I was desperate to see Sherlock, but dreaded telling him that I was responsible for the abduction of our beloved son. Neen, you are not responsible. When the carriage pulled up to the gate of our villa, the house was in darkness, save for the taper candle shining in the study. Sherlock was undoubtedly awake, wondering where we were at this late hour. I put my key in the latch and discovered the door was ajar. Sherlock stood waiting for me in the hallway. Oh, damn. "Where on earth have you been?" he demanded, his voice edged with a sharpness I'd rarely heard from him before. "I was nearly out of my mind with worry until I heard the carriage pull up outside." His keen grey eyes roved over me, narrowing as they took in my messy hair, the dust clinging to my skirt, and the wild look in my eyes. "But where's Nico?" he asked, a tremor in his voice betraying his rising alarm. I collapsed into my husband's arms, and my sobs were muffled against his chest as he tightened his hold, his breathing quickening with dread. "I'm so sorry, but he's been taken, and it's all my fault." I sobbed uncontrollably. Sherlock took me by the hand and led me into the study. He sat me in a hard-back chair and handed me a small glass of brandy, his face a mask of concern. "Take a breath. Try to calm yourself and tell me everything. Start from the beginning." My eyes streamed tears as my husband looked at me with a horrified expression, a long, low moan escaping from his mouth as for the second time that night I relayed the events of the evening. I explained that our friend Salvatore Romano and the Guardia were waiting outside to take Sherlock to the crime scene. "Please allow me to come with you," I implored, observing my husband's red-rimmed, bleary eyes and pasty complexion. Sherlock shook his head. "No, Neen. You've been through quite enough this evening. I will be fine. You should stay here in case Nico returns or the kidnappers send a ransom demand, which I fear is the likeliest scenario. I must find Romano and see how far he's progressed with the investigation. Please do not blame yourself. By the sound of things, this was not an impromptu kidnapping. On the contrary, somebody played out our son's abduction with military precision." "Oh, look, the Bookfather won." Oh, there was only 2 of us. That would be why. Cheers. You gotta be in it to win it. Ba-da-ba-ba. Join. Start. I stared at him, shocked. "You mean Nico was an intended target?" "I'm sure of it," Sherlock said quickly, slipping on his cap and ulster. "Amlas, what's up?" "What did you just clip?" "I'm going to pull that up so we can watch it in a little while." "But why would they take Nico?" I cried. "I don't know, Neen, but I will find out. You have my word on that. Please ask Hildegard to come and sit with you. I don't want you left alone. But before I leave, I must contact Mycroft." Sherlock picked up the telephone and called his brother. The conversation was brief and intense as my husband explained what had happened to Nico. And then, in a moment, Sherlock placed the receiver on its hook and without further ado, deftly left the room. I watched through the window as my husband's tall, athletic outline jumped into the carriage. The driver whipped up the horses and the carriage disappeared into the night. My mind flashed back to happier times with my husband. During our many clandestine midnight conversations, as I lay next to him, my head on his chest, the taste of wine on our lips, I knew I could ask anything from this man who stimulated my intellectual curiosity, who was simultaneously captivated and entranced by it. I don't know how I would have gotten through the next few hours without our nanny, Hildegard, whose name aptly means the Garden of Wisdom. Hildegard had been with us for the best part of a year. The children adored her kind, no-nonsense attitude, while I appreciated her unwavering support and belief that Nico would return to us unscathed. Hildegard was close friends with Sophia's nanny, Emilia Gordiano, and came highly recommended. She had an impeccable resume and references of the highest order, each vouching for Hildegard as an excellent person. Her mother was the acclaimed concert pianist Martina Schockmahol. Okay, I just have to pause here for a second. It's Shock O-M-O-H-L-E, which, when I say it in my head, sounds like shock my hole. I know that that's not how it's pronounced. It can't be. Right? Probably. Shock o mole. Oh, thank God.
Drink!
Cheers. Oh no, I seem to have won again. Silly me. Shockamole. Shockomole. 60 seconds on the clock, good luck. A prestigious talent who retired from the stage in 1902 after the tragic death of her husband, Carl Aiken, from lung cancer. The Schmidt family from Ehrenstadt had previously employed Hildegard as a governess in her hometown of Frankfurt for several years before she met Il Franco Daschil, a journalist at the Frankfurter Zeitung. There was a famous show jumper called Paul Schockamole, who I named the character after. Now, is it a coincidence right now that Nico sensed a German accent and our beloved Hildegard is also from German descent? Is that just pure coincidence, perhaps? Or is Hildegard playing the long game? I surely hope not. They fell in love and married before moving to Milan in 1904. Sadly, Hildegard's mother, Martina, disapproved of her only daughter's choice of husband and refused to attend the wedding. She and Hildegard had been estranged ever since. Intriguing indeed. You may have just put that in there to, give a scent that leads to nothing. Franco found employment as an economic journalist at Il Sole, the leading financial newspaper in Milan. The couple rented an apartment in Porta Venezia. Hildegard said they were happy for a while until Franco began to complain of violent headaches, which altered his mood. One moment, Il Franco was charm personified, and the next, he'd become cruel, abusive and mean, ranting and raving in a ball of rage that only dissipated after he resorted to physical violence. A broken chair, a shattered glass, and eventually Hildegard's hand in a door. Wow. Could be a red herring? Yes, perhaps. Guess we'll have to find out. Consequently, the relationship became fragmented. Hildegard begged her husband to see a doctor, but he stubbornly refused, putting his affliction down to the pressures of work. Tragically, Il Franco later collapsed at home with a brain hemorrhage, from which he never recovered, passing away at the Polislinsico. He passed away at the hospital in January 1905. I don't know. That's another word I can't say. His death was a significant loss to Hildegard and the newspaper. Franco was one of their most experienced journalists. Rexter, keep your laughs to yourself. When I interviewed Hildegard for the nanny position, I found her a fascinating subject and felt we had much in common. Seemingly at ease in my company, Hildegard confessed that after her husband's untimely demise, she decided to stay on in Milan rather than return to Germany and face her mother's wrath. Hildegard admitted she had made bad choices since her husband died, briefly embarking on relationship with a man who was unsuitable until finally she came to her senses and ended the relationship, subsequently reverting to her maiden name, Aiken, Ashen, one of the two. Sawi? Me too, buddy. Amlas winning. Getting on the map. Well done. Or on the leaderboard, I mean. How are you, Amlas, by the way? It's good to see you. "60 seconds. After I quizzed Hildegard further, she explained that having no children from her marriage, she had no desire to continue wearing her husband's name like an emblem, stating that her late husband had 2 brothers who could do that. It was an odd thing to say. But above all that, Hildegard was the most modest and unassuming of women, with fantastic charm and an infectious sense of humor. The air of determination on her lovely face, the delicate bone structure, the long, blonde hair tied up in a neat knot, and those expressive, almond-shaped eyes were genuinely captivating. Have been busy with rehearsals for the play that I'll be in? Ooh, but I've been good. Also getting over a cold. Yes. Colds. What is the play and what's your role? That sounds great. Plays are fun. I like to watch plays and stuff. It's a good time. A lot of talented people out there in the world. I decided not to question Hildegard further on the matter. After my past dalliance with Wilhelm Ormstein and my first husband, Godfrey Norton, who was I to judge anyone? It was none of my business if all had not been well in Hildegard's marriage or a subsequent relationship. I had the impression that neither man had been the perfect partner in any shape or form. Having had several of my own, I'd always believed in second chances. When I asked Hildegard to read a passage from Jane Eyre, her delivery and narrative style were delightfully refreshing. Every word hurtled had tripped off her tongue like poetry. I knew then that Nico and Charlotte would grow to love this fun, pretty, and vivacious woman. She adored Nico and Charlotte, and the children reciprocated those feelings. Initially, I was slightly jealous of Hildegard's begrudging relationship with Nico and Charlotte. Jealousy was like a shadow, and it crept up and caught us unaware. Although I considered us fortunate to have found such an agreeable nanny, a far cry from the ones I endured as a child, to my great surprise, my husband, for once, begrudgingly agreed. It's a musically immersed passion play. I am a spirit dancer, but I've been having a lot of fun being a stand-in when people are absent. Oh, that's cool. I actually haven't memorized many lines of other characters. I imagine you have, especially if you're there all the time. That's pretty cool. Good for you. Will this be live streamed at all, or is it kind of a local thing and that's it? Just, curious. To Sherlock and me, our home was a sacred place. It took someone remarkable to be allowed into the Sapori household's inner sanctum. Unfortunately, it is a local thing, but if my hubby takes any video of my parts, I can share it with you. That would be so cool. Thank you. It's very kind of you to offer. He should have a Twitch account. Or wait, he does have a Twitch account. He should go live on his Twitch account and just live stream the whole thing. Just saying. just an option. A thought. I know, right? Not a bad idea at all. Why am I winning the races all of a sudden, folks? This is not how that's supposed to work. Rexter, what happened to your really fast ball? Did it get confiscated? Didn't we do this race already? After Sherlock's departure, I decided not to wake Hildegard. I put my head around her bedroom door to find her sleeping peacefully. In truth, I was in no state to relay the grim news about Nico for the third time that evening. The anxiety was killing me. Last again, oh Lord Almighty, I'm last again. Maybe there's a reason for that. Gemma, my goodness. Thank you. Thank you for the 5 subs. Party Hard, Amlas, Ballbro, Luna Buddy, and Night Marcher, who I believe is streaming right now, all get subs. Gemma, you didn't have to do that again. You already did that. Thank you so much. Gemma. I was just gonna say, whisper that to me, but you already put it there. Just copy it in case I miss it. We're almost done with this chapter. Then I will see if you're a winner in the book, okay? You're so kind. We'll also give you another shout out too, because I want to make sure people know who you are. All right, we have about 2 pages, just shy. I was strained to the breaking point. Yes. Yes.
Someone else. I'll have to clip it after stream.
Yeah, clip it after stream.
You're 235.
Clip it after stream. So I decided to wait until morning. I found myself exhausted but restless, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. The grandfather clock in the hall struck out the hours, ticking loudly through the silence. Otherwise, it was a complete absence of sound. Finally, I was disturbed by the familiar and comforting sound of the domestic servants, our cook, Alice, and Ginevra, the housemaid, going about their business in the villa. Alice and Ginevra, but where did you come up with these names, Katie? Ginevra Bergamaschi. Bergamaschi. Yeah, sure. Were mother and daughter, and their home was a small apartment in the city center. Alice's husband, Dario, passed away from tuberculosis 2 years ago, and she came to work for us shortly after. Alice occasionally brought her daughter to help at the villa during the holidays, working a few hours here and there casually to earn pocket money. My husband had his reservations at first due to her tender age. Still, Ginevra proved to be a hard worker like her mother, a quick learner, a diligent bundle of energy, and an invaluable help with our dog Helen and the children. After much discussion, Sherlock and I finally agreed to offer Ginevra a full-time position. The girl was thrilled to join her mother and Hildegard as a full-time employee at the Sapori residence. I jokingly refer to the ladies as my three graces. When Hildegard finally came to breakfast, I discreetly ushered her into the morning room and gently explained all that had transpired. As we sat, sunlight flooded in through the French window, but the startling beauty of the morning did nothing to distract my mind from the grim reality of the situation. Now I want dill pickles? You just had to say diligent? Well, I mean, if it's written, it is read. Super. What up, bro? One of the three of the after-hour Broalition. Hildegard's unassuming manner and obvious concern were genuinely touching. She was a genial and avid listener. However, it was all too much for my fragile state of mind, and everything flooded out with grief and emotion. I said Sherlock wanted to avoid making the domestic servants aware of the situation, at least not until he had a chance to interview them. Hildegard agreed to my request and nodded through silent tears. The Policia will find Nico. They will, Nin, I'm sure. Perhaps it was a misunderstanding or a case of mistaken identity. Oh, Gemma coming in with the wind. I remember hearing Hildegard's words, but not fully comprehending what she said. For a moment, I felt suspended in a bubble of incomprehension. She put her arms around me, holding on to me tightly. Have you had breakfast? I shook my head. No, I have no appetite, although I could use a café noir. Hildegard narrowed her eyes. You look exhausted. What you need is rest and proper nourishment, she said, guiding me to the sofa in the drawing room. Lie down here for a moment. Take a nap. You need to feel refreshed when your husband returns. Hildegard gently wrapped a shawl around my shoulders as I reluctantly conceded. She closed the blinds before agreeing to my request to slip out discreetly to inquire about any news or gossip in the neighborhood. I heard her parting words as the door closed softly. Finché e vita se separanza. They meant, as long as there's life, there is hope. One should never despair, even in difficult circumstances. And that, folks, concludes chapter 6. Oh, Gemma, what am I going to do with you? You kind soul. Where did my spinny thing go? Here it is. All right, we need to spin 5 times, and then I need to look up some pages. You're gonna make me work out till I can't stand. Squats. Hello, Dry. How are you? That's 1. Regular curls. That's 2. Whose idea was it to work out? You can't stay? That's all right. Streamer picks. God, might as well put them on push-ups. Watch it spin push-ups next. Here comes number 4. I appreciate you being able to stop in and say hello. Just want to stalk by and cause mayhem? That's fair. See, I told you it would land on push-ups. And number 5 goes to hammers. Hammer. I owe 30 hammers. Good God. All right. Bear with me. I'm going to copy paste those numbers and place them back into chat so I don't miss anything, but also have the numbers in front of me. All right. Going back into Oliver Twist. Page 20. I'm sorry, nothing on page 20. Let's check 60. So as I said before, I marked these pages like days ago so I could forget what I marked. 60 is empty. Book bonk. Ooh, I owe 2 book bonks. Who else? Someone else redeemed a book bonk. So I will do 2. My poor head. Wow. Alrighty. Page 100. Nothing on 100. 160. Nope, 160 is empty as well. And last but not least, I'm sorry, 200 is also empty. What are we looking for? So, depending on the gift subs, Amless, I'll have you pick page numbers, and if you land on the correct page, you get a $25 gift card. I have 3 different books. If it's a single sub, this book. If it's 5, this one. If it's 10 or more, Bubonic. So yeah, 1 sub, 1 guess, 5 guesses, 10 or more subs, you get 15 guesses. And poor Gemma. She's had 10 guesses now and it's still eluding her. All right. Looks like we're going into race number 15 here, folks. That's a clever idea. Thank you. All right, Amlass is in. Super's in. Rexter, me. What time is it? 7:32. And I won't run the ads yet. All right, chapter 7. Also from Neen's perspective, this one is called Tradimento. Betrayal. That doesn't sound good. Sister Gina Ronsi from the police. How do you say the name of the hospital? Policlinico? From the hospital rang at 12:30 to confirm the surgeons had removed a clot from Mattia's brain. The clot was caused by severe head trauma resulting in a coma. She said the surgery had gone well. However, Mattia remained unconscious and in critical condition. I think you need Google to help you. No kidding. The next 48 hours would be crucial. The sister reassured me that Policia had posted a guardia outside Mattia's room as a precautionary measure for protection, and in the hopes he would be able to identify the culprits should he awaken from his coma. I thanked Sister Ronsi and said a silent prayer for Mattia's recovery. The poor man did not deserve what happened to him. Katie to the rescue. Pauline Klinko. Pauline Klinko? Is that? Oh, I didn't hit start. Jeez. Sorry, guys. My bad. Pauline Klinko. Pauline Klinko. Pauline Slinko. I don't know. I shall do my best. Where's my flowers, cappuccino? Ginevra prepared hot water for me to bathe. Then I quickly changed into a navy silk dress, applying minimal makeup before tying my hair up in a knot. Klinko. Okay, thank you. It was 2 p.m. when I heard a coach pull up outside. Peeping through the blinds, I watched my husband and Salvatore Romano jump down from the hansom and walk up the steps into the villa. I made my way to greet the men in the drawing room. My heart beat wildly in my chest, my breath catching, willing myself not to break down as I tentatively entered the room. I desperately tried to keep my composure, not knowing what might have befallen my darling boy. At that moment, I felt the earth would open up and swallow me. Relaxation was now a luxury, a distant memory from the past. All I had to do now was to keep my composure, not just for Sherlock's sake, but to convey an air of normality within the household. Calming my disturbing thoughts that Alice and Ginevra might harbor once they were made aware of Nico's abduction. "Is there any news?" I asked, staring at Sherlock and Salvatore with nervous expectation. Salvatore assured me the Policia were doing all they could. His men were checking all the ports and railway stations, a task hindered by the large number of visitors thronging the city and its platforms. He said our carriage was discovered toppled over on its side on the outskirts of Milan. The horses were found grazing in a nearby meadow, which seemed unscathed from their exertions. The Policia found wheel marks from another carriage and 2 sets of footprints. Someone had undoubtedly bundled Nico into another carriage, probably a hansom, based on the size of the wheel tracks. The brougham was searched and found empty, save for Nico's scarf and a silver button discovered by La Guardia under the driver's seat. Salvatore said he would arrange to return everything to the villa later that day. He pulled the silver button out of his pocket, placing it in the palm of his hand. Sherlock and I studied it closely. "Could this be from your coach driver?" Salvatore asked. I shook my head. "No, the buttons on Mattia's uniform are more prominent and metallic black. I had never noticed him wearing anything with buttons of that type." The button likely belongs to the villain," Sherlock said. "It appears to be a man's and could be from a coat, cloak, or uniform. Can you remember what the driver wore?" Sherlock asked, turning to me. I shook my head. "No. I'm sorry, it was dark, and he was too far away. Did you find anything at the house?" I inquired, looking at Salvatore expectantly. The inspector grimaced. "Nothing of consequence, I'm afraid, but my Guardia are there as we speak, going through everything with a fine-tooth comb. Your husband and I questioned the neighbors. We discovered the house had been empty since a dreadful incident occurred 2 years ago. The occupiers, Luis Bandiro and his wife, were found by a relative, brutally murdered. I was holidaying with my family at the time. Still, I remember the case, and despite pursuing several lines of inquiry and a wide-scale investigation, the murderer was never caught. The neighbors told us that New tenants, the De Torres, eventually moved into the property. They lasted a month before handing back the keys, complaining they heard unexplained noises during the night hours. They said there was something ungodly in that house. My men and I followed up on the complaint and interviewed the tenants, who admitted they'd not seen anything, but they'd been disturbed by the sound of a dog howling. Whatever it was, it put the fear of God into them. Once again, my men checked the house and gardens, but found nothing. We wondered if the De Torres had made up the story to get out of the tenancy, as they moved to Pavia shortly after the incident. Since then, the locals shunned the place, claiming it was haunted, so there were no takers. Even after the letting agent drastically reduced the rent by more than half the market value, the property remained vacant. The perpetrators knew the property's history and used it to their advantage, breaking in, changing the locks, and treating it as their own to carry out their dastardly plan in the knowledge that they were unlikely to be disturbed. Sherlock grimaced. I shuddered. Those people are right. There was something ungodly about that place. What about the couple at the house? Do you think they could be actors? They put on quite a show. Oh, Anne Blanche. Final race coming up. The track. Good luck, everybody. It's possible, Salvatore said. Margardi are checking with the local theater companies to see if anyone matches their description, although the culprits were likely in disguise. What do we tell Alice and Ginevra? I asked. Hildegard already knows about Nico. The inspector and I will interview the domestic servants to see if they can shed light on the situation, or report anything suspicious, Sherlock said. Then we'll wait for the ransom note to arrive. I'm certain our son is still here in Milan. Sherlock insisted on questioning the servants separately, so I first called Alice into the drawing room. She smiled at us curiously, smoothing her black cotton dress and apron and easing her reassuringly corpulent frame into a comfortable armchair. She wiped her brow with a handkerchief, glancing curiously at Salvatore, who was seated in the far corner of the room, observing the proceedings with his notebook and a watchful eye. Alice looked horrified and visibly upset as Sherlock explained how Nico had been taken. Her ruddy complexion turned a shade paler as she listened to my husband's narrative. That's terrible to hear, sir. That lovely boy. Is there anything I can do to help? Alice cried, her eyes consumed with emotion. This is rather a delicate matter, Sherlock said. I can't put too much emphasis on the confidentiality of this conversation. I have asked Inspector Romano and the Policia to withhold information that this is a kidnapping inquiry, so there will be no public appeal. The last thing we need is for the press to get wind of our son's abduction. If that happens, this investigation will become a circus. So I need your assurance that our narrative will not exceed these 4 walls. Alice nodded in agreement as Sherlock continued. Did you notice anything suspicious the last few days that seemed out of place? Any strangers coming to the villa? Alice shook her head. No, nothing, sir, except yesterday, when Signora Sapori explained your cold and asked me to send out for laudanum as we ran low. I would typically have asked Ginevra to carry out the errand, but it was my daughter's half-day, so she was visiting her aunt in Gromo. I decided to go myself when Hildegard kindly offered to get the laudanum, and she was on her way to meet an old friend. What time did she leave, and when did she return? Sherlock asked sternly, staring at Alice with his astute grey eyes. Why, it was just after noon, Signor Sapori. Hildegard told me not to expect her back until later, explaining she had switched her half-day. I asked if you wanted luncheon, remember? You requested something light, a soup and bread. Sherlock nodded in agreement as Alice continued. Oh, Rexter. After I returned to the kitchen and went about my duties, the rest of the afternoon passed in a haze until the clock struck 6. And that's when Hildegard returned with the laudanum. The girl appeared pale and deep in thought. But when I questioned her, Hildegard brushed off my concerns, blaming an allergy and the need for a ride down. But I had the sense that she wasn't telling me everything. I'm not one to gossip, Signor Sapori. I know that Hildegard is liked and well respected, but if you had observed what I had, you might come to a different conclusion. I could tell you things about that young lady that would curl your hair. I don't want idle chit-chat. What I want is facts. Sherlock snapped, casting the cook a withering glance, his lips pursed in disapproval. It never ceases to amaze me how keen people are to share irrelevant gossip, but never the important news we require. Alice shifted uncomfortably in her seat, staring firmly at Sherlock with her baby blue eyes. Signor Sapori, when I bumped into Hildegard in town 2 weeks ago, she was dressed in her Sunday best. I saw her talking with an older man. They had a heated altercation. When Hildegard noticed me, she looked mortified. She grabbed the man's arm and they disappeared into the market. When I confronted Hildegard the next day, I was presented with candies and an apology. She told me the man was an ex-suitor who'd been badgering her. But after pleading with him, the man agreed to Hildegard's request not to trouble her again. What did this man look like? I only saw him fleetingly. Still, he was slim-built with lightish brown hair, bespeckled grey, and is in his mid to late 50s. Have you seen this man since? No, sir, nor do I wish to. Alice shook her head. Something about his face and overall demeanor gave me the shivers. Will there be anything else? She asked, looking up at my husband nervously. That'll be all for now, Sherlock said dismissively. When you return to the kitchen, please send the housemaid. A flustered-looking Alice nodded, smiling at me sympathetically before leaving the drawing room. A few minutes later, Ginevra, a fresh-faced 16-year-old with expressive brown eyes, entered the room dressed in a black cotton dress and apron. Her long, light brown hair parted in the middle and drawn back in a tortoise-shell clip, accentuating her prominent cheekbones. She responded to my husband's questions good-naturedly and sobbed when she learned of Nico's abduction. I handed her a handkerchief as Sherlock continued with his interrogation. Have you noticed any strangers loitering around the villa or anything out of place? He asked. Ginevra shook her head, blowing into the handkerchief. No, sir. There was nothing unusual at all. I'm sorry I can't be of more help. I wish I could do something to alleviate your heartache. Your son will continually be in my thoughts and prayers. Ah, yes. Thoughts and prayers. What America is built on. Sherlock confidently asked Ginevra not to mention anything to anyone, least of all the press. She immediately agreed to his request. I smiled at her weakly, sensing an inner strength behind the girl's soft-spoken speech and quiet demeanor. Sherlock dismissed Ginevra, and I asked her to bring coffee, which she swiftly returned with. cook said you missed lunch, Ginevra asked as she poured the coffee. Might she organize a cold platter? Nothing for me, thank you, Salvatore said, waving his hand. Sherlock shook his head, protesting he wasn't hungry before dismissing Ginevra. I think we can eliminate the domestic servants from our inquiries. It would be cruel despotism to dismiss them without proof and deprive them of their livelihood. Without further evidence, I'm convinced of their innocence, although I cannot yet speak for Hildegard Asian until I've questioned her. Where is she? Sherlock asked, staring at me curiously. Hildegard went out early this morning to see if there was any news on the street about Nico. She should be back soon, I explained before turning my attention to Salvatore. So, Inspector, I must know what fate has befallen my son. What else do you intend to do besides door-to-door inquiries to help find him? Salvatore straightened in his chair with his dark brown eyes fixed on me. This is a testing time for both of you. Let me assure you, Nin, my Gardaí are doing everything possible to find the culprits. They're dedicated men who work long, hard hours, often for no extra remuneration. Many have families and young children of their own. Their commitment to the job can never be questioned. Salvatore sighed. This dreadful business is understandably causing you a great deal of distress and anxiety. We don't want you to be afraid. Your husband and I are convinced your son is still in Milan, and if that is the case, rest assured we will find him. I smiled at Salvatore. Believe me when I tell you that everything I have ever feared has already happened. So no, I'm not afraid. I'm angry that someone dared take my son. I don't want any unnecessary trouble. I seek justice, not revenge. I want answers to who, what, where, and why. I understand, Salvatore said, smiling at me sympathetically. Do you? I asked, raising a brow. On the contrary, I want the head of the snake, Sherlock said, grimacing derisively and turning his attention to Salvatore. Inspector, you and your team are a beacon of light in this cesspit of despair. Alongside Lestrade from Scotland Yard, you're amongst the finest of the professions. My wife and I will likely need all the assistance we can muster. Even Sherlock Holmes cannot be everywhere. Salvatore shook his head. Thank you for the compliments, Mr. Holmes. Your reputation precedes you. Marigardi and I are acutely aware that you stand alone in such matters, head and shoulders above the rest of us mere mortals. But rest assured, we will leave no stone unturned in the quest to find your son. On that, you have my word. My men and I remained humbly at your disposal. Despite Sherlock and Salvatore's assurances, I couldn't help but think the unthinkable. Nico's abduction made me wonder if the devil lived in Milan. Salvatore then excused himself to return to his inquiries, promising to update us on any fresh developments. We agreed to get in touch once the ransom note arrived. After Salvatore departed, I turned to Sherlock, perplexed. And what do you suggest we do now? Why, we wait for the ransom note, which I have no doubt will inevitably arrive. Ginevra entered the room, interrupting our conversation. I'm sorry to disturb you, she stammered. But there's no easy way to say this. I've just been to Hildegard's room to turn over the bed, and I noticed that her valise, some personal effects, and clothes are missing. Sherlock and I ran upstairs to search Hildegard's room, which was neat, with a note left on the pillow. As Sherlock read out the contents, my blood turned to ice. I'm sorry, but I had to go. I fear that I'm responsible for Nico's abduction, but I want you to know that it was not intentional. Your son was taken by a man using several identities. I have yet to learn who he is. All I know is that he has accomplices, and Nico's abduction was strategically planned. Now I must find a way to right the wrong and find your son, even at the risk of my own life. Hildegard. This cannot be happening, I cried. But why would she do this? We welcomed her into our home. The pain in my chest felt like a hand gripping my heart. I couldn't move. Sherlock continued to search the room, opening every cupboard and drawer. Finally, he discovered Hildegard's passport in a bedside locker, holding it up to check that it was still in date, which it was. Passports were not required for European travel, so few people held them. Discovering Hildegard had an in-date passport begged the question of whether she'd intended to travel outside Europe. And if that was the case, why would she leave the passport behind? We're left faced with a fait accompli, Sherlock said, his penetrating grey eyes fixated on me. Everything about this is wrong. Hildegard Aiken can't have gone far. She left under duress, as I doubt it was under her own free will. I shall call Romano and ask him to organize a search. Sherlock sighed, and his face darkened. This isn't just about money. It's personal, he added with sickening clarity. Kidnappers rarely work in isolation. There's no time to lose, Neen. The clock is ticking. I bloody knew it. I should have been a Sherlock Holmes myself. Excellent chapter. My goodness. I knew the nanny was in on it. Oh boy. Oh, what excellent timing, too. It's almost at the top of the hour. So let's see who came in third place in the Grand Prix. Stump Mama's Mama. Well done on getting third place. Honorable position. Rexter taking second. I did not see that coming. I really thought you were going to get first place. Did I get first place? I did. I sure did. Apparently my watch thought I just stood up. I have not moved. Well, well, well. Yay me. I would like to take this moment to thank my parents for having me as a child, and for my family for always believing in me. If it weren't for them, well, I don't know where I'd be. My goodness. We read some excellent chapters tonight. 4, 5, 6, and 7. Right? Yes, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Man. We're only at page 58, and already this book has just driven us through many different emotions, introduced some excellent characters, of course, diving deep into the Sapori family. the Holmes family. It's going to be great. I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, the 9th of April. I'm attending the SIBA Award ceremony. My novella, Christmas at the Saporis, made the finals. That's right. Yes, I hope... Where is my mouse? It always disappears. For the love. Where is it? Hello? There it is. It was still inside the marbles game. Yes, I wish you much luck there, KD. I think you're gonna do great. You've already outdone yourself as it is. So hopefully everything else is just a cherry on top. So yeah, we won't be reading in 2 days because that's Thursday. We'll be doing some truck driving and then some Helldivers. But we will be back to reading on Sunday. And it's going to be great. Thanks for the reading tonight, Jason. It's been awesome. Well, thank you. Seriously, I really appreciate the fact that you're here when it is past your bedtime. Very much past your bedtime. So, I need to find someone we can go say hello to. First, let me get my stream back up. Or Twitch, I mean, the streams. Let's see who's on. We rated Thump last time. Man, there's a ton of people on right now. Tuesday is just a happening day. Oh, and my kiddo is here to say goodnight. Hey, buddy. Did you ever shower?
No.
Oh, your hair smells good. Me too. Get some good sleep, okay? Alrighty. Kiddo's going to bed. Well, this is very heartwarming. Hello, Renee Sky. First time chatter, how are you? We're actually just about to raid out. Yeah. Good night, Stump Mama's mama. Just finished reading. Puzzle's still going, and we finished our marble race, our Grand Prix. And I'm looking for someone to go say hello to. Oh, you know what? I know who we're gonna go say hello to. I got this. Please copy the raid message. Please, please, please. Thanks for the stream, bro. That's Silent. Absolutely. It's a pleasure to see you. And Renee, I'll be back in 2 days playing some games, but we'll be back to reading on Sunday. Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday is the schedule. Sundays and Tuesdays we read. Thursday we do a little bit of gaming. So that's the plan. Thank you. Do you stream as well? I'm assuming so, if you've got that check mark right there. I assume. I don't want to do assuming, but the check mark gives it away. Yep. I dropped you a follow. I do, yes, but very interested in reading and writing. Oh, well, awesome. Feel free to ping me anytime in a whisper. Because we can always talk about it. And thank you for the follow. Appreciate you. Okay. Getting distracted. We're gonna raid our buddy Justin. It's just Raji. I may just do that. Fantastic. I will keep an eye out. For sure. The only time I'm not on Twitch is if I'm out of the house or sleeping. So, otherwise, I'm pretty much there. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here tonight and joining me in this very cool book. Gemma, thank you. You know what you did. Keep tabs on those numbers that you guessed, because I'd hate for you to guess the same numbers again. I'm not keeping track, so. Yeah. So with that in mind, everybody, please have a good Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of your week if I don't see you again. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Have an amazing night.